Hey guys, David. This is Express Auto Transmission. We like to play with transmissions here, and we like having you guys here watching our videos. So thank you guys for watching. Welcome back. We're gonna go see what's on the bench today.
This is the 456 hub. This is the shaft.
The idea behind that is to get as much oil to the fourth clutch as quick as you possibly can. And we've got a beautiful vacuum. We made it back. Guys, we had a weird day. It's been a good day. It's been a long day. A little tired, a little wired. I think it's about time for some coffee or Red Bull or something to wake me up for the day. But anywho, here we are. We're back at the bench. We've got a 6F50M on the bench today, wrong. It's a 6T50. I always get them confused because Ford and Chevrolet, they got together and they both have the same transmission, but they call them something else. Weird stuff. Anywho, we are going to be assembling this thing. This is a unit that came in on a 2013 Chevrolet Captiva. The customer complaint was after they drove it for about 15-20 minutes, it just stopped moving entirely. So it was Are you done over there?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Anywho,
I thought it was on vibrate.
like I said, guys, been a long day. Anywho, the customer complaint was after 15-20 minutes driving, stopped moving. So diagnosis, we let it sit out here and run for about 20 minutes, get it up to operating temperature and hop in it, and sure enough, didn't move. So we tore the unit apart and we found that the wave spring had broke, which is a super common problem for this unit. So we are putting in a new AC Delco wave spring. Luckily for this customer, it did not damage the drum any further than it absolutely had to, and we are able to save the drum. Typically, whenever this happens, we have to replace the drum because it just tears the drum up. That's all there is to it. There's no other good way to put it outside of it just tears it up. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our overdrive clutches on, we're going to put our direct clutches on, and put the lip seals in, put the pistons in, show you guys some of the tricks and things that we do to put this drum together. This drum has been a problem for a lot of builders, and it is a little tricky to get together without breaking it. So we'll show you guys what we do and how we do it. So we're going to start with putting some direct clutches on. And I know you're saying, what now? Yeah, we're going to put the clutches on before we build the drum, because that's just the way to do it. Gonna get all of our clutches set in place, get our pressure plate put in place. I find it's a snap ring that goes there, because that seems to be a super important thing at the moment. Get that guy put in there just like so. Then we're gonna flip the drum over. So one of the biggest areas of issues with these drums is the lip seal, or not lip seal, the land where the sealing rings ride. This drum has no actual wear where the sealing rings ride, and it's actually really impressive. This transmission only has 64,000 miles on it, so it's kind of an oddball to see it in here in this condition. But there's no major wears there, so we're gonna move forward with it. Get all of our lip seals yanked off of here. Let's go ahead and get rid of those. Don't need those things on the bench. Sure, we got that guy all the way in there. And then, can't even remember here, but orange goes on top, and black goes on the bottom. That guy worked in there, and as always, gotta give it plenty of the goos. Nobody likes it when they're dry.
You turned your green goo blue.
I did. I ran out of the green, and not the end of summer, but it's getting really close. When we get to the end of the summer and start to get the little cooler temperatures, the green gets a little too stiff, so I like to change up and use the blue. When it gets really, really cold, we'll go even goofier and we'll go to the gold stuff. I know, mind blown. Now, we're going to get our new piston out. We're going to get our spring cage, make sure that everything's intact there. So here we install the piston. Just work it down into place. And then we install the retainer. This is where I've seen guys break these things in the past. That little tab right there is not held on there by a whole heck of a lot. It's a little bitty area. So whenever you're pushing this thing down, if you don't have your tab aligned correctly, or you push it too far, you'll actually damage the tab or break the tab off completely. At which point, it's junk, because then the reluctor sits there and spins and you get output speed sensor codes and, well, the show's over. Here's where we get a little goofy. What I like to do, get my snap ring, lay it over the top of the drum like so, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put a power glide band on the back. We're going to put a block across it, put it in the press it down to put our snap ring on. A little bit of a way to cheat. Now we're going to press it down just far enough that we can see the snap ring groove open. And we're going to reach down inside of there and take our fingers and just kind of work the snap ring in. I know some guys don't like to use their fingers to put their snap rings in, but unlike those guys, I don't suck and I can do it. So now I'm going to take this guy out of the press and take it back over there as an assembled drum. Alrighty, now that we've got our clutches put in there and our pistons put on there, we're going to move to the overdrive clutch. Get our new seals out. Can I grab enough of these guys? Same thing here, we're going to reach down in there and pull our original lip seal out and kind of work this one into our groove here. If I can get my fingers to cooperate. Come here, seal. Okay. There it goes. Just had to get my fingers laid in there right. Darn fingers. Work! They just don't want to work right today.
Gotta go get them recalibrated.
Yep. Have to get me a finger tune. Give me some of those Bluetooth fingers. That would help out a lot in this situation. Bluetooth my blue goo onto my pistons.
I saw a meme on Facebook and it said, it just said Bluetooth seatbelts. It had the part that buckles in.
Oh man.
They were carbon fiber though, so.
That's the best way to do it. Alrighty guys, now that we have rambled for a minute, got our overdrive clutches, or overdrive piston assembled, we've got our new seals installed, some blue goo in place. This guy, we just kind of give it a little bit of twist and push all at the same time. You got to be careful. The top of this, let me show you there. Top of that piston has a ledge on it right here. And if you're not careful whenever you're doing the twisty pushy motion, you can really slice up your fingers. I can tell you from plenty of fun experiences here that it is not the thing to do. Come on, baby. Drop in there. Oh, okay. Still moves. We're good. Get our spring cage in and wipe off all the blue goo off my fingers. Starting to feel like I'm a Smurf over here. Yeah, right? Get some of this trash out of the way. And we'll open another baggie. Beautiful. Brand new piston. Just what the doctor ordered. Plenty of blue goo on it. This one can be a little tricky to get it seated in there where you need to, but take a little time. I like to use my feeler gauge and make sure that the top seal there is in plenty. And now we'll take the press and press that guy down. Come here, press. Do-do-do. Get that guy in there just right. Watch our seal go down nice and smooth. Now that we are all the way at the bottom, we can put our snap ring in and need to go a little bit further. Put our snap ring in place. Release the piston. I'm gonna have to make one with shorter threads. I think it's got a lot of threads on it. Alright, get this guy out of our way. So what we're gonna do now is we are actually going to stack our clutch up. Typically, you would put the clutch hub on and put your output or your input shaft and everything else in there, but to measure it, we need to actually go through and put everything in there. Get a set of feeler gauges out and check to see what our actual clearance is here, because the clearance is very, very, very important to clearance. At least that's what somebody told me. We got an extra one. Hot diggity dang. Put our top pressure plate in. Put our snap ring in. There's a bug on our snap ring. Get rid of the bug. Alright, now we can take a set of feeler gauges and see what we really got. Alrighty, now that we've got everything stacked in here, we're going to take our feeler gauge and work her down into the bottom here and make sure that we can lift up on our plate and slide our feeler gauges in. And it's got just a little bit of drag to it, but not a lot of drag. It should slide in fairly easily. So we've got our feeler gauges right now set to 45. The tolerance for this clutch is 45 to 90. I've built them where they were looser and had them around 75 to 80 thousandths, and the adaptive strategy took a lot longer to learn. Anytime you're building one of these things, you have to do the adaptive relearn. So during that process, it is actually figuring out what the clutch volume is inside of this clutch, or the fluid volume is inside of this clutch. So with that mentality, you have to think about the amount of fluid that it takes to actually apply the piston and move the piston far enough to lock the clutches down to actually create the gear. So whenever I'm building, I try to stay towards the tighter tolerance that the clutch is specified for. You guys will notice that we're setting ours up dry and we're checking everything dry. I'm kind of a weirdo sometimes. I like to do stuff dry and then we'll soak the clutches, or we'll soak the clutches once it's been assembled. This is an area where I actually like to soak the whole drum. Part of that being is that the balance piston will absorb quite a bit of oil, and it'll actually take in oil on the back side of the balance piston on the rear. So allowing that drum to fill up with oil naturally just sitting here, I think is better for the drum and for the first startup of the transmission. on first startup, this input shaft is gonna spin and this drum is gonna spin instantly. As soon as that motor is turning over, this shaft is moving. Whether it's meant to move or not, because the converter's not 100% full of oil, that kind of part, that to me is irrelevant. My theory is if the motor is turning, this shaft is gonna be turning as well. So I like to have oil in it at that point. So now that we know what our gauge is, we know that our clearance is right, we've already checked our direct clutch clearance, verified what it is. It is supposed to be 39 to 85 if my memory is right. Let me double check that number, what the book says. Book says it is 39 to 92. I've got mine set at 040. That's what I think it needs to be, and that's what we're gonna go with. So we're gonna take this back apart and put our clutch hub in, put our bearing in place, and stick our input shaft down in there. Bearing is in. Gotta pull all this stuff back out of there, you goober. Put our clutch hub in, and we'll start putting clutches in. There seems to be a lot of bugs this evening, and we're going to remove that bug because he does not belong there. For you guys that are wondering, we relocated him to a very, very nice habitat. He is going to live a wonderful life for a long time.
Yeah.
We did though. He's gone. All right. So one thing we did not talk about, I think about it now after I've already done it, but installing new bushings, 6T50s, 6T70s, 6T40s, any of the 6T family needs new bushings. Always put new bushings. It's a super bad wear area, mainly because of the amount of metal that they absorb whenever this spring likes to break. Aluminum shavings go everywhere, they go in the bushings, and they just ruin bushings. So with that in mind, knowing the 6T, 70, and 6T, all the 6 family of transmissions, always replace bushings. So that part we're not going to show in the video, mainly because I already did it, and well, that's how it is. Grab us a pair of snap ring pliers, and we'll put this guy in there. Flip this over. This is where the fun really begins, because you got to get this snap ring way down there in the bottom. Way down in there. You got to take your snap ring pliers and see if we can get our eyeballs to work. Get the snap ring in place. Make sure it's locked all the way down. And that is assembled. So we're gonna move this off to the side. We're gonna do our center support next. This is another area that we do stuff a little goofy, but it works for us, and that's what matters. So we're gonna get our new piston. We're gonna look to see where our orifices are and where our feed ports are. This hasn't been a bad problem in the later model ones, but in the earlier ones, we started seeing where the rubber sleeve that contacts the end of the center support here would actually wear on an angle, on like almost like half of this crescent. And whenever it starts to do that, you'll end up with a fluid leak right there coming out of the center support. So always check for flatness on this surface. You wouldn't think that it would rub that bad, but whenever you have a TCM failure and you have high line pressure problem and somebody drives the vehicle for 40,000 miles with it having high line pressure, that seal is just sitting there rubbing against that center support, mainly because the center support isn't locked into the case when the snap rings start to have problems, because there's no retaining ring for this support. So always check that surface right there.
You can just check it with a straight edge.
Yep, I use my little gauge. This is a precision ground straight edge, and we just take a straight edge and lay it across there. I'll usually take a feeler gauge, a 2,000th or a 1,000th feeler gauge, and just verify that there's no issues. But if you've got good eyes and some lights, you can see in there pretty good. So lube up our piston and put this guy together. Now this next trick I was actually taught from another builder a long time ago, and I don't know exactly where he got this trick, but it works really, really well. Are we on the wrong side here? We're on the wrong side. His trick is to take your spring there that you put in, and we'll take a sun shell. I'll grab that sun shell behind you. This is actually a E40D or 40100 sun shell, and I've cut some notches in it right there, a window, so that we can put this in the press, and we'll press that down and we'll actually be able to reach in from both sides, expand the snap ring and put it in. I've seen guys take screwdrivers and sit here and just individually pry the fingers down and work the snap ring in, and that's fine. I mean, if you guys want to do it that way, I mean, just know that I think you suck and so on and so forth. But what we're going to do is we're going to use this shell that we've cut up, and we're going to put that snap ring in there. Back to the press we go. Alrighty, now we've got this guy set in our press. We'll push this thing down. Eventually, like so, just far enough to reach in here and take the snap ring and move it into position. And like so, we've got our snap ring in, release our press. I'll take this whole setup into the other ring. Alrighty, got that pressed in there, so we're gonna grab our other piston and do the same thing. I think we got a few pistons left to grab out of baggies over there, so. I don't believe that is it there, Georgie. Grab me the next one. There we go, that looks better. Gotta have a Hulk moment every once in a while. And that is the correct piston this time. Woohoo! So, lube up our pistons, get everything nice and lubricated, and work this guy right down into place. Same thing, we're gonna put our spring on top. We're gonna lay our snap ring up on top. We're gonna go back over to the press. Get our snap ring lined up here. Where's the end of it? Where'd you go? There it is. It's a lot easier if you get your snap ring over here into the starting point before you press it down. Hey ho, Silver! Let's roll! Put just a little bit of pressure on her there. Get it to where it allows us to put our snap ring in. Same thing, we'll push in, reach in from the back and pull it in place there, and then just work our way around. And we've got a nice pop, and looks like she's in place all the way, so push it down just a little bit more, make sure it didn't move. All right. Let's go see if we can't put some more pieces together. Let the madness begin. At least that's what Caleb keeps telling me. Anyway, guys, we got our transmission case back on the bench. Trying to finish putting this 6T50 back together. One thing we wanted to discuss real quick, we've already started prepping our case. We've got our support down in there. We've got our new Teflon rings put in. We've got our low piston put in, snap ring put in. Other area of major concern on the 6T family of transmissions is the axle shaft bushing. So the axle shaft bushing, I've personally dealt with this on many occasions. This bushing is really bad about wallering out. The factory bushing is just too narrow. And this is something this is my opinion. If you guys don't like it, you suck, that's your own way of doing it, move on, whatever. But this axle bushing that Superior makes is way wider. It is Teflon coated, and it comes with a new axle seal. anytime we're building one, I don't care if it's got 10 miles on it, it needs this axle bushing to be updated. This will come back and it will be a problem, and your customer is going to be unhappy because all of a sudden he's leaking fluid out of his driver's side axle. So this will be the last step of prepping the case. Well, when we get to that area, but this will be one of the last things we do. So now that we've got everything set in there where we want it, we got our low bearing in place, we get that stuff out of our way. We were gonna grab our input drum that we set in, or that we played with earlier. We're gonna get that guy set down in place and make sure she does the spinnies there. There's passages here, 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 and here. All of these passages do something different. If you're going to check your direct and overdrive clutch, there's one specific or two specific passages. If you apply to the other passage, you're going to apply the low clutch, which pushes this piston out of the bore. If you do that and it's got the retaining ring installed, it blows it out, cuts the lip seal off the side of it, and destroys the piston. So if you're going to air check that, do it before you put your low piston in. We have already air checked it, we've already set our clearances, we've already talked about setting our clearances, so on and so forth. Now we are going to start with putting our low clutch in. If I can find the low clutch. So, low clutch. And we're just going to start stacking parts and pieces in here. So eventually we're going to make it to the top of this unit. It may take a day or two here, but we'll get up there. Oh, hold on, we can't do this yet. Gotta put some more pieces in here. Need to get us a bearing in place. We need to get us a hub in place. Woo! Don't damage our bushings for putting the guy down in there. Now we're ready to put the low clutches in. Almost got ahead of myself there. That's all right. Make sure I got my steel plates orientated right here. Alrighty. We have an extra low clutch. Did we miss anything on our stack? Nope, nope. We don't have an extra low clutch. It's an extra 2/4 clutch. Losing my mind over here, guys. Anywho, one thing that I want to show you here, there's a couple of different ways to do this. One way that you can do it is to measure down from the surface of this shoulder down to the top of the clutch, and that'll give you a 060. As far as I know of, there is not a lot of selectiveness to the low clutch. I've measured a bunch of them. I've read the book a time or two or 3 or 4 or 500 different times. I have not found a clearance for that clutch. I've been trying to keep them around 50 to 55. So 55 to 60, I think we're gonna roll with it. If I could find a clearance, or if anybody knows of a clearance, let me know. I would love to have that information. Anyway, we're gonna continue moving here. Next, we're gonna get our low sprag in. This guy ratchets one way and doesn't ratchet the other. And we've got to make sure we get this guy orientated correctly. It's been a day or two since I've done one of these. And sometimes I have to sit here and play the spin it game till I find the happy number. We gotta be getting, whoa! So we gotta be getting close to it. Ta-da! And she's in. Now, alrighty, now that we've got our low sprag in place, we're gonna grab our pressure plate. We're gonna put our pressure plate in next. Roll! Get down in there, turkey. And then we're gonna put some clutches, because, well, you just can't have enough clutches. I'm gonna do 1 clutch, and then 2 clutch, and 3 clutch, and 4. Did I grab the wrong clutches? I am just having a fun time today, trying to keep track of my hands. They want to go over there, they want to go over there. Too many trainings today, guys. Too many. beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Caleb, do you not agree?
I agree.
Wonderful. Hope everybody else agrees. We're gonna continue stacking this thing up. Next, we're gonna get our center support and the pizza parlor out. Get my hands to work with me. Make sure everything fits nicely. Nope. I have done this in the past, and I have learned from experience that if you do not have this thing in here correctly, it does not drop down all the way. At which point you really have a bad day. So we're going to do a little bit of spinning here. Get this guy back to where it's supposed to be. Alright, get that wave plate dropped in there the way she needs to be. We've already spent a lot of time with this unit and done a lot of our ahead of time planning. We've already verified that our in clearances and our clutch clearances are where they need to be. So we're going to continue stacking this unit up. We're going to put our rear planetary, mid planetary, and then we are going to put our center support into place. Guys, if you're putting one of these center supports in, you do not need a hammer. You shouldn't have to swing anything to get this guy to drop in. You should just kind of have to rock it just a little bit. Watch your thumbs, they can really cut you up pretty good. And just like that, she'll drop down to the bottom and we'll move on. Next, we are going to get our big fat bearing BFB installed. It's one of my favorite parts of this transmission is that big fat bearing. One of the bigger bearings that you see in a front wheel drive. So get our outside planetary installed, or front planet, rear planet, whatever you want to call that little turkey. So now that we've got it in there, we're going to put our last clutch hub into place, like so. We're gonna go, David, you idiot. Did you put that bearing in there? I put the bearing in there, I'm gonna put the bearing in there, okay. Sometimes I forget stuff, just like anybody else. If you guys are building one of these things and you have the moment of, did I do that? One thing I learned a long time ago, if you question whether or not you did it, take it back apart. Because I lose sleep at night wondering if I've left a bearing out of a transmission. I left a check ball out of a transmission one day, and it took me 2 days to figure out when I did it and where I did it, but I remembered at about 2 o'clock in the morning that I left a check ball out. So super important to take your time and make sure that everything is where everything is supposed to be. Now we're going to put in our last spring up here on the top. Make sure that it is, whoa, gotta get it all the way down there, Georgie. Gonna have to play the game again. Which way does it go, George? Which way does it go? Ta-da! And we're going to put in some clutches with some steels. I always get this pressure plate mixed up for some reason. Now, last but not least, we're going to put our giant snap ring in. From the factory, the snap ring is down in this location. In a video not so long ago, we discussed how we had a 60-70 or 60-40 or whatever it was. 60-40 in here. I can't seem to keep my transmission straight tonight. We had a 60-40 in here, and it had actually broke the ears off of the case right here. So our repair was to replace the case and move on with life. If you get one of these things in and it has not broke the case, always position the snap ring at the top. When you position the snap ring at the bottom, it breaks these ears off and eventually it'll bow the plate out, piston will travel too far, cause a loss of gears. So So we like to put ours in with the snap ring all the way at the top of the case. Just gotta bear down and work her in there a little bit. Got my favorite screwdriver. See if we can't get her to pop in. Just like so. I'm gonna take our snap ring pliers and make sure that the guy is expanded as far as it needs to be. And now we have a transmission. We're going to install our seals into our center support and put some air into some holes and see if she blows. She blows today. I can hear the thud personally, but we'll see if we can't seal this circuit off a little bit better. All right. Now we'll grab our center support seals out of our gasket kit. Get these guys slid in here. It can be a little tough to push in, but get them all the way down in there. And we'll listen to these guys. Alrighty. Yep. We verified that everything applies, does what it's supposed to do. We're going to take everything back apart, do some soaking, and do final assembly on this thing for one last time. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And we'll see you guys on the next one.